wondering if you saw my last video, part 1 of this saga of how I ended up traveling solo, you'll kind of see the first half of a very messy situation. And so now we're at part 2. This is 4. So 2 of this story, what happens when I get back. So I get back from the trip, still haven't heard from Charlie, and at this point I'm very worried and concerned because it's not like her. Like I mentioned, she was not that type of person, to my knowledge, to be someone who would just ghost or leave someone high and dry. And you know, I definitely completely trusted her and known her for a long time, so I just was at that point thinking that something happened to her. But I wanted to reach out to her immediate family. I didn't know them, and so I didn't want to, and I know that with the family issues going on, it was like, they might be busy, and I don't want to be stepping on any toes, but at the same time, this is my friend who I haven't heard from in weeks, and I'm at this point concerned that something happened to her. So I have to put what's appropriate and inappropriate or unprofessional, whatever you want to call it, aside and figure out if my friend is alive and okay, because I've done everything in my power to personally reach out to her and figure that out, and I haven't heard anything and not seeing anything. So I decide to reach out to, or I find her immediate family via social media, and I privately reach out to one of her immediate family members, and I send a very simple message introducing myself, explaining the situation, that how I know Charlie, and that we were planning a trip together, and she said that she was leaving at this date and arriving at this time, and I never heard from her after that, and I just want to check and see if she's okay and alive and well. And that's basically what I sent to her family member. I waited a few days and I didn't hear anything from that family member, so I reached out to her sibling. She has a sister, and I reached out to her sister with the same, I copy and pasted the same message. And I sent that to her because I knew that they were fairly close, and I was like, I'm sure she will know, if she's okay or not. And so a few days pass before I get a response from her sister. And in those few days that pass, Charlie gets back on social media. And when she gets back on there, y'all, there are these posts on her. She posts these different memes, and those posts with like quotes and stuff like that, that are very subliminally but directly related to me and our situation. And I can tell that she's being a little shady, like she's throwing shade at me. And so I'm a bit confused because I'm seeing these posts, and they're talking about like real friends don't do this or real friends don't do that or whatever the case may be. And I have a few questions, because I'm like, one, okay, this lets me know that I'm relieved that you're alive, but what is happening? Like, what happened? 1. 2, where are you? Like, are you alive, but are you kidnapped? Like, are you, what, I'm still in denial, right? So I'm like, is your kidnapper posting this? I mean, I'm not that naive, but when you do trust someone, and you do have a friendship or relationship or whatever the situation may be, and you feel like someone's done you wrong, sometimes you do go through that denial of like, I don't think they would do this to me. So you do create excuses for them to try to make up for their behavior. And so that's where I was at. Like, she wouldn't do this to me. She wouldn't be sitting here posting shady posts on social media instead of reaching out to me privately and returning my messages and letting me know that she's alive and okay and explaining whatever happened to me, and maybe even offering an apology or an explanation or something, So I was just very confused about this. And so, I was relieved that she seemed to be alive, but I didn't know what was happening. And so, again, I was a ball of, confusion at this point and frustration, a lot of frustration. And so I wasn't sure what was going on. I was seeing these and realizing that she clearly is ignoring me, and seeing what I'm seeing in these posts, she does not feel as though she's in the wrong for what's happened, because she's posting things that give me the impression, since I know that they're directed towards me, give me the impression that she feels differently about the situation, and she may feel that I have wronged her. And I was confused at this point because I was not sure what wrongdoing I did in planning a trip for someone who multiple times agreed that they were going to go, despite my misgivings and doubts and offerings of canceling the trip, and who reached out to her on several occasions on multiple different platforms and never heard from her, and went on a trip without the friend who encouraged and initiated this trip from the start. So I was a bit confused on where I was in the wrong. So I am pondering this, y'all, and in the few days that this is occurring, her sister responds, and her sister tells me that their grandmother has actually passed away, and that the family's been dealing with that, and that, she's sorry of what happened, but she'll, pass the information along to Charlie, and hopefully Charlie will get back to me, which is just what I needed. And she reiterated the fact that I could clearly tell from social media that she was okay and safe and stuff. And so at that point, I was angry because, one, this was someone that I had known for a very long time, that I trusted, and felt like I knew decently, and she wasn't someone that I expected to behave this way. And also, there was a mutual friendship there, meaning that I felt that she should know me well enough to know that I'm a very understanding person, and I get that life happens or things happen that are out of our control. And obviously, death is not something you can control, and if it happens, then, life gets put on hold, and that's totally fine. And I would have understood had she expressed that to me, even if it was, the day before the trip, even if she had hit me with one line of, hey, I can't come. Obviously, I still would have been upset, but I would have been understanding, I would have assumed that she would have provided me with details later, and at least I would have known that she had made a decision as to what she was doing, And so and then the fact that I assumed that we'd be friends enough that, one, you would tell me this, but then two, that I had to go out of my way to find your family on social media to then reach out to them just to see if you're okay, to me felt unacceptable. That's not something you do. And we're adults, that we're not freshmen, high schoolers, 14-year-olds that don't know how to communicate or behave. And even within the grief and stuff like that, I knew that she had a very demanding job. She also had a significant other. And at this point, we were, over a month out from me returning from the trip. So I knew that she had to have some communication with the rest of her life to let them know what was happening. And so I was wondering why I couldn't get an explanation, or why I never got an explanation as to what happened in her life too. Obviously, these are things I, again, wanted to address with her and had been wanting to. That's was my whole point, other than making sure she was okay, and reaching out to her was, let's talk about this. Like, I was very understanding. I was like, look, just explain. There were so many times where I was like, just tell me what's happening. I never disrespected her. I never called her out her name. I never did anything crazy in my messages. I was never rude. And so I didn't know what was going on. So her sister responded saying that. And since Charlie was not responding to me personally, I had responded to her sister. I just said that I'm an international student, and there are some things that are owed, and I would like to get in touch with Charlie. If you can please tell her to respond to me and reach out to me so we can get that taken care of. And her sister responded and said, I'll do that. I said thank you, and we went about that. So I'm expecting in the next few days to hear from Charlie, because I know that they talked, and I know she's okay and she's in her normal sphere of things. But I'm not hearing from her, and then I check social media, and I come to realize that I've been blocked on all social media.
Girl, bye!
And so I'm like, at this point, this is insane. This is crazy. I'm blocked on social media for what reason? Are you upset that I reached out to your family to see if you're okay? And to figure out what's happening? Because I haven't heard from my friend that I've known for 8 years in almost 2 months at this point, when we were supposed to plan a trip together. You said you were flying out one day, and I haven't heard from you since. So I was like, what in the world? This is crazy. This is, wow, I'm seeing a totally different side that I was not expecting to see, and something that I would never in a million years think that would come from this person of all people. I had obviously discussed this with, my best friend and, close family, as they knew I was going to do this trip with Charlie. And as I was discussing it with my close friends, and I told them, the follow-up of what had happened, and we had found out she had blocked them as well. So she was just burning bridges left and right for absolutely no reason. Absolutely no reason. And so at this point, I have a very, very loyal, wonderful best friend, and she's always down to defend me. And she had wanted to do this previously to her actually doing it, but I really wanted to give time to handle things privately, because if you follow me on social media, I'm very private about my personal life. You don't really know anything about me, and I like to keep it that way. So I had been trying to handle everything privately, but my friend was very upset with how the situation was handled, my best friend, with Charlie, or how Charlie handled the situation. And since she had been blocked on certain things, she still had one social media platform that was open, and she wanted to let Charlie know how she was feeling in a respectful way, of course. Again, nothing disrespectful, nothing calling her out her name. And at this point, because we are now in December, this trip happened over Halloween, and the planning process was all through September. So we are months away, haven't heard anything, haven't got reimbursed, haven't had anything. And so at this point, I feel like maybe my best friend leaving a comment on her page would cause her to then reach out to me. And because I frankly was upset with how everything had worked too. So at that point, I had felt none of that friendly need to protect or defend a friend, which was also another part of the reason why I didn't want to post anything publicly, because I was still kind of in that denial stage, and she was a friend. And so, that just wasn't something I wanted to do. But I gave her the go-ahead to say what she wanted to say, and my best friend did do a post on her page explaining her disappointment and how Charlie handled the situation and kind of what she did. And then my best friend decided to make a post just explaining, a cautionary post like, hey, I know we are all from the same town, or a lot of us on this social media, we all know each other. So just be aware that this is what happened in the event, that you are also friends with Charlie and she wants to do this with you as well. And when my best friend made the post, she didn't include me in it initially. There was nothing referencing me. And she handled it very professionally. I mean, she expressed her opinion, but it was done in a respectful way, a very tasteful way, in my opinion. The facts were laid very truthfully, but there was no disrespecting, there was no calling anyone out their name, there was nothing inappropriate or aggressive about the post at all. It was just an explanation of the fact, an expression of the disappointment and how Charlie handled the situation. And so Charlie was tagged in it, and close friends and family of Charlie's began to comment on it, alongside with people expressing their shock and how Charlie handled that situation. And there were people saying, I can't believe she would do that. Same as me, like, she doesn't seem like that type of person who would do that. Like, I can't believe this is what happened. Your friend needs to be reimbursed. And then she had 2 people that commented on it. There were a close friend and a family member, and they were telling my best friend, the friend of Charlie was telling my best friend that she was out of line, that she needed to delete this. And then the family member, she was using explicit language, trying to attack me and my friend and anyone else who had commented, saying I'm a broke, you know what, who's trying to embezzle money from her family at this rough time, and that Charlie told me that she wasn't coming and I chose to go anyway, so it's my fault, and this, that, and the third. And so the family member is saying all this, and I'm like, first of all, if you're gonna do this, everything was said very respectfully, so you need to be respectful too. Nobody is coming at you personally. And learn correct terminology before you try to come at someone. It's not embezzling. Embezzling has nothing to do with the situation. So do a little bit better, but that's neither here or there. So I'm looking at this these groupings of comments, and I'm realizing that based off of what's being said in the comments by the close circle of Charlie, I'm realizing that they haven't been told the truth, that she's been telling her own story that's completely different from the truth. And again, like I said, I was refraining from posting. And side note, I mean, maybe you guys have pieced it together, but in case you guys haven't and you guys are wondering, like, why didn't I make a post on my own? Why did my best friend make the post? Remember that I was blocked. So I couldn't say anything. I couldn't tag her in anything because it wouldn't get to her at all because I was blocked. So just keep that in mind. But yes, so I'm realizing that they haven't been told the complete story, and I'm realizing that at this point, I need to address this publicly as well and just go ahead and post the receipts. So I made a very lengthy comment tagging the 2 people who had commented that I just told you guys about, and I expressed my disappointment in what happened as well, and explained to them that they were clearly told the wrong story, and that I did not want to do it this way. I did not want to out her at all, but it had been multiple months of me reaching out to her privately on all social media, on sending multiple texts, multiple calls, reaching out to family, and all of that stuff. And I was at a loss of what else to do. And so, I was saying this is what it's come to, basically. And, I understand that you guys heard a completely different story. So here's what actually happened. And then I just proceeded to post screenshots of what was said, a few snippets of different times I had reached out to Charlie, both before and after the trip, and her expressing that she was still coming, and me never hearing from her, and all of that stuff. And showing that I had sent her messages on different social media accounts if she didn't ever respond to those and stuff of that nature. So, and at this point, people not only could see this, but she was actively on social media, obviously. I mean, I had been blocked, but before I was blocked, I knew that she was actively on social media, so people could see for themselves, that she was fine. And people can make their own determination, which that was obviously the fact. So after that situation with the social media public fiasco, I'm thinking, okay, surely she's gonna reach out and we can get this handled. But at this point, even before the post, I was over it. The social media post, I was just like, at this point, I see what it is. I see, unfortunately, what type of person she can be. And it's unfortunate, but clearly this friendship can't continue, seeing as how she behaved. And so I was kind of over it, but, one last hoorah, social media, I was expecting her to respond. No, she didn't respond, but her sister, the same one that reached out to me, reached out to my best friend who posted the post, and expressed that Charlie was very upset about the post, that she felt that she was being bullied, and she wanted the post taken down. And my best friend was just very honest, and it was like, hey, my friend has done everything she could to reach out to her privately. She even reached out to you as the sister. You explained everything. She explained everything, offered her condolences. She's done everything she's had to do to you guys privately, or to Charlie privately, and it has not been handled or addressed. So this was kind of the last avenue, and I'm sorry I had to get to this because I wasn't expecting Charlie to be this way either, but this is what happened, and it's the truth of what happened. So if she feels upset, that's on her conscience. And she again was very polite, and the sister was very polite in her communication throughout this whole time. Of course, it wasn't her issue anyway. So she said that she would try to reach out to Charlie again, and she was like, once she calms down, maybe she'll reach out to Brianna and they can get this resolved. That's my hope. And they kind of left it at that. And I was expecting to hear from Charlie, and of course, y'all may have guessed, we're years later and I've never heard from her. I'm sure I'm still blocked. I'm sure my friends are all still blocked. And that is the crazy story of how I ended up traveling solo. So, y'all may or may not have learned a few lessons from this. I certainly did. A ton of lessons. But I think the most important takeaway from this for me, and my biggest learning lesson outside of logistical stuff, I realized that I could travel solo, and I ended up having a great trip, and I think it was meant to happen for me. It was kind of that push I needed to experience it, because I may have not been ever courageous enough or confident enough to try it just on my own. And I was able to do it. I ended up having a great time, and I met so many cool people, got to do so many cool things, and now I've traveled multiple trips solo, and I have no problem traveling solo. So there was definitely a positive takeaway from all this messiness and drama. So that's how I started traveling solo. So I know this is super lengthy. So if you guys are still with me, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my juicy little tea. I hope I did okay telling the story for y'all. If you liked it, definitely leave a comment, definitely like the video, hit subscribe, because I definitely have tons of interesting content coming you guys' way. So hope y'all like this story, and I'll talk to y'all next time.